everyone, my name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions and to create space for all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan: support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, also known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Sunday. We have a few thought pieces scheduled to drop actually in this next month, so definitely be on the lookout for those. We also provide a listening alternative, so if it is the case you want to listen while on the go, then we are available wherever podcasts are playing, and we've provided you with access to a few links down below. Now, as is the convention, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like these conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Allô les meufs et les mecs. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis, and today's topic of discussion is education. On the topic of education, we're going to be continuing the conversation that we started on education this week, which is around communication, except talking about when is the best strategy to say nothing. So when silence in and of itself provides you the best medium of communicating your perspective, the position that you're taking, and your point of view. And I think that too often we find that everything requires a response, that everything requires a tidbit of our energy. But if we think about a communication as something that is a service, as something that we do for others, then we need to think about who warrants that service, right? Like, who is deserving of that service? So who is deserving of the time, effort, and energy that it's going to take to craft a communication that lands, right? And that is the premise of a communication, is really you're crafting a message, not from your own point of view, but you're really trying to step into the point of view of the person that you're crafting the message for, so that you ensure that the message lands and that they receive what it is that you're hoping to share and to provide, because it means something to you that they understand your point of view, and it means something to you that you've done your best to persuade them. So that often should be the very first question you ask yourself when you think to yourself, does this warrant a communication? And so whenever I'm thinking about responding, always as part of my array of responses available, is there going to be silence? If I don't think that the grab for my attention is worth the time, energy, and effort required to communicate my position effectively and efficiently, then I'm just simply not going to, because I recognize that silence is a very, very powerful tool. So that's the first tidbit of advice that I want to give you. If you don't think that that response, the amount of time, energy, and effort that is going to go into a response is worth the time and attention that it requires, then feel free to respond with silence. That is a choice that all of us have the option and have available to us, and it requires zero time invested. There are a few other situations where silence is the best move forward, and so I want to talk a little bit about those today, because I think that we're always in each other's faces, whether it's in person or whether it's online. So there's always these opportunities to provide input, to provide our feedback, and sometimes it's just best to say nothing. And so one of those situations by ways of communication where silence is the best move forward is when you have nothing good to say. And so a lot of the times we think that even if we have nothing good to say, that it's a value contribution, still a value add to the conversation, but sometimes it isn't. And so that's going to be a judgment call on your part. But if I recognize that my contribution is really, there's nothing positive that I have to say, and the negative things that I have to say have low risk, low impact, whether I share them or not, then I'm simply going to say nothing. And this also works when it is the case that you're in a disagreement, when you're in an argument with someone and you in that moment have nothing good to say. Trust me that as you think about it, as you give yourself an opportunity to recalibrate, to calm down, the more substantial and more, I guess, weighted opinions about the situation are going to come to fruition. But when you're very, very emotional and all you can think to say are the things that are going to be gratifying in that moment, then that is probably an opportunity where you should choose silence, honor yourself with your silence, and give yourself the space to think about different alternatives that aren't as prickly, that aren't going to be as self-gratifying in the moment if you're feeling upset, but also not all that conducive to a resolution or to a move forward in the long run. So you always want to think about the long term, the mid-term. You don't want to just react and communicate and share your perspective because it gratifies you in that moment. You don't want to be the kind of person who satisfies every reflex to communicate when it is the case that you're communicating when you're upset, because then people don't actually see the best parts of you when you're only communicating as ways of defending yourself or as being combative and being defensive. So I find that if I'm just being combative, if I'm just in a mood to spar, but I'm not really going to get anything out of it but self-gratification, I choose to withhold and to respond with silence. Another area where I find that a lot of us spend a lot of energy communicating, but it really doesn't have the return on investment that it should, is when you're dealing with someone who there's no room for persuasion, right? There's no room for flexibility. I mean, they've already made up their mind. And so one of the other gauges that I have when I'm thinking about a communication is, who is my audience? And is my audience already completely, rigidly holding a position that no matter how many words I use or how many ways I try to describe alternate positions, they're just not going to budge. And so if I find that someone's not going to budge, no matter how articulate or how well researched or how centered or how objective my point of view is, then there's just no point, right? And I think a lot of us, we waste our energy because we think that it's always our call, it's always on us to persuade someone to alternate and pivot directions. But I don't think that onus is on me. And so if I'm in a conversation with someone and I see that they're looking to explore with me, like they have a different perspective, but they're curious and they're open to hearing a perspective different than their own, and they just need valid arguments to consider a different alternative that is not maybe their priority or their preference, then I'm going to have that conversation. I'm going to invest the time required to really paint a picture that's complete enough that it could persuade them. But if I'm dealing with someone who's very closed off to any other alternative routes, then I'm going to save that energy and put it elsewhere, because my energy means a lot to me. When it comes to communication, it's always a question of time, energy, and effort. You cannot communicate from the gut. It's a very cerebral activity. It requires a lot of critical thinking. And so when you're in the act of persuading, which is a form of communication, whether you're appealing to logic, whether you're appealing to emotion, whether you're appealing to character or to your own personal credibility and influence, you want to just make sure that you're putting all of that attention, that time, and that effort into a direction that's going to serve you at some point in time. If you're putting it against a wall, like someone who's really just not interested, regardless of what appeals you make, then better to respond with silence and focus your energy on where it will serve you better. Another area where silence is the best medium to move forward is when silence is more effective than your words. And so there are certain situations where no matter how well you craft a message, not responding at all is the best way to communicate your position. And this is often the case when you've already communicated your position and someone is persisting. And so since I was a young child, I was always told that persistence is annoying, persuasive is effective. So when someone keeps repeatedly asking you the same question, you've given them the answer, I have developed the value in it, because it's not changing tactics, it's not trying a different way of communicating the same point, it's really just hitting a nail, hoping that you're going to get a different result when the result's not going to change. And so I find that when it is the case that I've already communicated my point of view, I'll maybe do a 3-strike rule where I'll communicate my point of view up to 3 times. Then after that, I'm moving to silence, because my silence is going to be more effective than my words if my words clearly aren't clear enough for this person to recognize that I'm just not interested. So sometimes it is the case that when someone really wants you to be be on side of something that you're just not on side on, or they want you to be part of a camp that you're just not part of, and you've already communicated that once, twice, maybe 3 times, then the best communication moving forward is silence, because it's just reinforcing the position you've already taken. And so I'll reinforce as a courtesy the position that I've taken maybe once, twice, maximum 3 times. But after that, if you're still asking the same questions, then the silence is going to be more effective than my words if my words weren't effective the first 3 times that we had that exchange. And a lot of the times we feel the need to keep and continuously respond and answer the same answer over and over and over again. And we can really tire ourselves out and stress ourselves out by putting energy into a hole, right? And that's a void. That's like a form of energy cannibalization when someone is expecting a different result from you and you're continuously entertaining that dynamic. And so rather than having others people cannibalize my energy where I've already given them the energy that they're gonna get with the response that I've given, after a maximum 3 times, then the response moving forward is definitely silence, and it's gonna be more effective than my words, and it's gonna take a lot less energy because I don't have to respond or pay attention to that call for my attention anymore. And so the last point of view that I wanted to share with you today, where silence is the best form of communication moving forward, and this is a bonus one as well for all of you game theorists out there who recognize that decisions are always in a hybrid of decisions happening all at the same time. So every decision that you're making is competing and conflicting with other decisions all around you. So even sometimes when you're in a grocery store, you're dealing with all of these people who are making decisions of what to buy, what food they want to make, and there's always like this medley of decisions happening regardless of what ecosystem you're in. So even if we're in the metro system, you're dealing with a hybrid medley of decisions. And so as someone who loves game theory and who's always thinking about not only my decisions, but the impact my decisions are going to have on others, I'm thinking of other people's decisions and the impact that those decisions are going to have on me, sometimes I choose silence when the lack of clarity and the lack of direction as to what decision I'm taking is going to serve me ultimately. So when I want to be unpredictable, or when I want to have the surprise factor as a part of my strategy of moving forward, if I want to make it difficult for someone to predict my next moves, then that is the best way to exercise silence. And so it's important that we recognize that sometimes having a little degree of mystery, some obscurity around our next moves, especially when we're in a competing environment, is going to serve us. So when people are asking you questions and those questions are going to help them position themselves against you, then it's better to just not give them the information that they're looking for. And if you're the only person, if you're the only source of that information, then it serves you best to not have them have the information that they need to be able to properly or prepare a response or a retaliation towards you, or to find a way to rebut or to counteract the moves that you're hoping to make. So sometimes having that lack of clarity, that lack of direction as part of your strategy is something that you enable by using and exercising silence. In any case, that was the topic for today. I hope it was helpful. I hope that it serves you in some way, shape, or form. Now, before letting you go, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that we will be going live at least twice a month, every month for the foreseeable future on our Facebook page. So definitely be sure to tune in. Now, these events are paid events, so if you do see yourself participating in our community on an ongoing basis, and I do suggest that you take a look at one of our package plans. Yes, so we do offer package plans over and above our live events, as well as access to webinars and workshops largely focused on self-mastery over and above those events. So check it out, be part of our game changer community, being part of the change that you want to see, allowing us a small role to play in your journey. We are on the road to 1K, so we do invite you to follow us across all of our social media platforms, and we look forward to chatting with all of you very soon. We'll talk to you later.